Okay, I'm back. Uh, Welcome back to another video. I thought I had to do something, but then I thought about it. I was like, no, I'm all good. So, yeah, I'm trying to get to my trying to reload it. Let me go to home screen, reload it that way. Okay, now we're good. So this is WWE Heel Turns Nobody Asked For Part 2. It's like a continuation of what we were watching before.
And the company. Rock was awesome, he put in the work, but when Stone Cold came back, he reminded everyone of what they missed. This man was getting all these crazy reactions and everyone loved him. But this decision ruined everything. So many viewers tuned out due to this very decision, and when you look at the situation, everything about it was so strange. Stone Cold only had one babyface to feud with, that being The Undertaker. The Rock was gone, and they even paired him with the Alliance later on. So even in a situation where Austin needed to turn heel, they did it in the wrong way. And his character was very entertaining. I personally think it's great as a standalone, but it was the worst time to do it. The heel turn was so bad that Austin just reverted back to a face like nothing happened the night after Survivor Series. Despite all the hate this heel run gets, it shows his versatility to go and do something entirely different as a paranoid champion. As I said, I like that as a standalone, and I'm very interested in making...
Oh my God! Do you know who you are? You're Fresh Grey. Cheers. Frazier.
or remaking a video about it. Eddie Guerrero. Latino Heat's 2003 was a very special year in his career. It was a transitional period from a very consistent tag team player to a full-on main eventer. The brand split gave him this opportunity, and Eddie didn't take it for granted. Amidst all of this, at a time where Eddie Guerrero was gaining traction, he had a random heel turn after Tajiri did something to his car. And when I mean did something, it was involuntary. He destroys him, starts jumping around as a heel, complaining, but nobody really cared. Yeah, whatever. Oh, Eddie Guerrero's a heel. Who cares? I'm gonna cheer him anyways. So what, you slammed Tajiri on the car? No one cared. Even if Eddie Guerrero decided to beat up Rey Mysterio as everyone does, nobody would have gave a damn. And this heel turn was so bad that he didn't even have a proper face turn. All he had to do
Again,
was go to El
he
Paso,
did beat
pose
up
with
Rey
the fans,
Mysterio a whole
and the
lot.
rest is history. Eddie Guerrero's a babyface, and he became the WWE champion later on. Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's return run with the WWE wasn't entirely
I
what he
felt
was
like this was
expected to be.
warranted.
It was mostly around and on TV every week, but wasn't moving higher up. His brother Jeff was in much better positions and actually had stories going on. Matt did have his stories at times, but it wasn't as consistent as his brother Jeff Hardy. Matt was stuck as a mid-carder, and in a time where the WWE roster was stacked, shout out to Twitter, the only other option to potentially go up was a heel turn. He randomly cost his brother the WWE Championship, and from there his charisma faded. He just had this emotionalist look on his face, not anger, not jealousy, nothing. He's staring like a random PS2 NPC, and this heel turn was bad. It didn't help Matt Hardy at all, because the entire reason they did it was to give Jeff Hardy something for WrestleMania. It was never supposed to be a launching pad for him, because right after the feud ended, he did nothing. Matter of fact, he reunited with his brother a couple of months later. But they tried too hard with that feud, involving a dead dog, when just the mere fact of a brother turning on his own brother out of jealousy is enough. And TNA did it better, but for Matt Hardy in 2009, it did absolutely nothing for him. He got the big win, but they didn't put any effort into his character. It was supposed to be Christian's feud, which explains why Matt Hardy lacked any direction after Backlash. Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's got a strange career trajectory. He's always been around and done better than 98% of wrestlers, but his career could have been so much more, especially in TNA. He had the perfect run when debuting in 2005 that culminated with a loss to Kurt Angle. Their feud was amazing and provided a high-level, real main event vibe that very few matches in the company's history could match. The slew of mistakes, though, would start showing with TNA's treatment of Joe. He was fumbled on a couple of occasions, and there came a time where the main event Mafia ran roughshod on TNA. One of their first targets was
I like
Samoa
that
Joe, a
rivalry
huge rival
between
of
him and
Hangman's in the
AJ.
past. They took him out, and the beating he suffered hurt him so badly that he thought having a gun on his face was a great idea. He was hunting down others and was repackaged. This all led to him joining the main event Mafia, turning heel, and siding with his biggest enemy in TNA. The guy that gave him his first loss screwed him over on multiple occasions, Kurt Angle. It was the most TNA thing ever.
Kurt
If
Angle.
WWE's thing is not striking while the iron's hot, TNA was doing random swerves. It hurt Joe badly, and you guys know, this man is so talented and loved by people that without a thought you'd assume he was a 3-time TNA World Champion. But he's not. Only won the belt once. This heel turn didn't help at all, and at one point he was even kidnapped by ninjas later on, and that story wasn't followed up on. Joe had the credentials, the talent, and the drive, but when bad booking gets in the way, it's almost impossible to overcome. Michael Cole. Michael Cole had slowly been phased in as the voice of the WWE after Jim
Yeah,
Ross's switch
he won at
to the
WrestleMania,
SmackDown
then he
brand in
retired.
2008. It was a surreal change
That's
to
a
see
good
these
way to
two
go
swap
out.
spots. Jim Ross didn't fit SmackDown at all, and it's one of those things that you had to get used to. Cole was mostly a background character for the first parts of his time on Raw, and he never had that respect that JR did because similar to 1999, he was seen as somebody that took his spot. With the advent of NXT, Michael Cole was booked to be more biased towards certain wrestlers such as Daniel Bryan. He had a strong disdain for him, and by the summer he was a full-on heel. It was a strange decision because Cole was the voice of Raw, and in some ways he was a huge character of the show, but as a heel, he was indirectly one of the main characters of the show. And this motherfucker didn't know how to hit a suplex, so when Melina faced somebody like Alicia Fox, this man was yapping, he's rambling on. When John Cena faced The Miz, it was yapping premium. It was a huge problem because Cole was actually good at his job. I'm not gonna lie and say he was a bad heel. The problem was he was overexposed. This man would complain on Raw for 2 hours, sometimes 3, show up to NXT, and every once in a while he'd be on SmackDown. It was rough, and there was a few nice moments in there. His time on NXT Season 3 was very entertaining, but by the time WrestleMania 27 came around, everyone had enough. His impact was felt with legitimately every match. Santino and somebody like Mason Ryan face off, you're not getting the commentator, it was heel Michael Cole. And that feud with the King should have ended at WrestleMania, but it was dragged on and on and on and on and on like I am right now. WWE seemed to get the hint that Michael Cole dominating their shows despite being a commentator wasn't a good idea, and his biased commentary was toned down to the level of Bobby Heenan. Of course, he wasn't as good as Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman's move to Raw in 2016 opened up a huge opportunity for him to prosper and succeed as WWE's new giant. He had the agility, the size, and was getting better and better as time went on. For some reason, he exploded after WrestleMania. WWE was pushing him super hard, he broke the ring, and all they had to do to get him loved by the fans was have him face Roman Reigns. Back in 2017, Roman Reigns was considered to be Judas and the Antichrist rolled into one. Like, I legitimately believe people underrate just how hated this man was back then. They did not like him at all. But for Strowman, this feud turned him into the hottest babyface on Raw and a potential challenger for the Universal Championship. What made Strowman so great is that he easily stood out, not only because of his size, but the fact that he was booked in these insane segments and moments where he'd respawn from a garbage truck. And I think that's where half of WWE's ideas in 2018 came from. He showed a lot of charisma and was pretty damn good in ring. They had plenty of moments to crown him champion, but he always failed. 2018 though was one of the most disastrous years I've seen a talent this good endure, especially because heading into the year, Braun Strowman looked prepared for a title reign. He won Money in the Bank, was the great option in between Brock Lesnar, who never defended his title and was on the UFC-esque schedule, and Roman Reigns, who I don't need to explain why they hated him. Instead, he got...
Watch live sports with no hidden.
I think Brock Lesnar took his Money in the Bank briefcase and threw it, and then I was there we saw it again.
SummerSlam, and then proceeded to fail his cash in after Brock interfered a month later. So he turned heel and aligned with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. Correction, the heel turn happened right before the Hell in a Cell match. Braun went from a guy who was a loner and needed
Ain't no
help
Drew and
to a man
Dolph
that's
were the
siding with others
champions.
because the Shield bullied him so badly. It was not well thought out and mostly came down to the fact that the Shield reunited to help Roman. At the end of the day, it was all about the big dog.
Didn't they help come
Unfortunately,
back
he
when
had
the Miz?
leukemia at the time and had to go away, which brought the end of the heel turn. For Strowman, the booking damaged him hard because they weren't able to replicate that organic rise he had in the previous year. There's just something special about 2017-18 Braun Strowman that very few wrestlers have reached in the last couple of years. Especially the fact that he was a big guy and everyone loved him, you know? Like, obviously there's some that didn't like him, but for the most part, everybody liked him because he was different to the other main eventers on the roster, but it is what it is. I do wish he won the title at some point during this time because it would have freshened up the title scene. Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch's reputation on SmackDown in 2018 was in a strange position. She had the credentials in the previous title reigns, but for some reason was stuck in the middle of the card. During the summer, her push began. It seemed like she was heading towards a title charge because the last time she was pushed this hard was in 2016. Becky was winning more often, and her big moment was SummerSlam. She was set to face Carmella for the SmackDown Women's Championship, but instead, though, Charlotte was added to the match, and at this point, the fans got the memo. Charlotte was the golden girl of the WWE. It wasn't as hard as Roman's push, but she was their go-to girl for any big title match. The most important thing to mention here is that in storyline, Becky had been wronged for 2 years. Anybody want to make an impact, they'd go after her.
I
Steal
missed
title
the Irish
shot,
Flash.
whatever. Basically, she was screwed over. So when Charlotte won at SummerSlam, she exploded and the fans weren't angry. It was quite the opposite, which was a huge oversight from WWE. Because when a heel turns heel, they boo that person. Instead, it was like she turned face premium or something. Becky had a lot of valid reasons to go after Charlotte, and this heel turn was heavily criticized. Fans didn't buy into the fact that Becky was a heel no one cared, but in many ways, this is one of the most important heel turns in the last couple of years. I only think of Roman's that had more of an impact, off the top of my head, of course. But for Becky Lynch, her character was molded and developed by this very heel turn. The man, a champion that had all the confidence in the world. There was something about that confidence that really elevated her to greater heights, especially that vibe where she just didn't care who she pissed off and win, even with a broken nose, and by Survivor Series, she was no longer a heel. Merch was selling out and Becky Lynch was the hottest thing in the entire WWE. I can't say I ever imagined her of all people being on top because she was the Irish lass kicker, the woman that lost all the time when it mattered most, and nobody saw this coming. And yes, Ronda Rousey played a part, but Becky's Fury red hot push got the woman to main event their first WrestleMania. It was wild stuff. Alright, I was gonna include a lot of other stuff here. Tatanka, Jim Ross, Monty Brown, Ryback, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, which I actually had in the video. CM Punk had a profound impact on WWE.
Okay, thank y'all for watching. I'm gonna see you on the next one. Y'all stay tuned.